Blue Bayou. It's recorded by Linda Ronstadt. It was written, not many people know, by Roy Orbison and Joe Melson. Joe used to work over at the Frost Top fixing up grilled cheese sandwiches. He got a job as a songwriter in Nashville, so he teamed up with Roy. They both wore sunglasses all the time, so they kind of hit it off. And Linda picked up on the song, and we thought we'd do it.
Hot diggity, look at that. We got us some wine perking now. Hey, it's Rick here. So, if you recall, we basically were just going to let these chopped up pears sit in this water, and we put some of that stuff in there to kill the natural yeast so it wouldn't do anything. And it's been about, I stirred it once, so it's been about 6 days. So she's begun to start working. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this clean bucket and we're going to transfer all of the liquid out of this into this. And that is going to be our pear liquid, or our pear juice, or whatever you want to call it. Now, I'm not going to put the strainer on the end of this, because we're going to try to get as much of this over here as we can. So I'm going to get this siphoning in here. And you could do this, you don't want to lip that thing. They make a little tool that you can put on the end of this, but hey, I'm the one that's going to be drinking it, so who cares? Besides, it's going to have so much alcohol in it, it ain't going to hurt anything. It'll just taste good, but it'll be like hand sanitizer, So we're going to drain this into this, and then we're going to take about 2 gallons of this, and we're going to put it on the stove, add some sugar to it, and stir it up till it gets warm so the sugar dissolves. Then we're going to dump that in here, and we're going to pitch our yeast. And so while this is draining, we're going to go get our yeast set up in a jar so that it can be making a nice growth before we throw it in here. So, alright, show you more. Okay, we'll get you set up here on the drain board here. Don't mind them dirty dishes over here. Okay, so if you've watched me make yeast starter before for beer, it's the same way for wine, or I do it the same way for wine. Perhaps it isn't, but that's what I do. So we've got, roughly 2 teaspoons of regular granulated sugar in here, and we're going to take our yeast, and this is the flavor of the day for today, and we're going to put this in there. I use this kind of yeast for a lot of things, making bread and all kinds of stuff. It's great yeast. You just don't want to use, if you use regular bread yeast and stuff in wines and things, it just gives it a weird taste. So we've got some warm water here, not too hot because we don't want to kill the yeast. Fill that up about halfway. Stir this up. Kind of dissolve that sugar and get all the yeasties down in there. As my friend Kent calls them, yeasties. Get all that stuff down in there. Okay, and we're just going to set that aside until we get ready to pitch it in to the wort. Alright, show you more. Okay, so I've got me a 2-gallon pot here. I got about a gallon of the pear water, if you want to call it that. That's what I'm calling it. We'll refer to it as a wort, but it basically isn't. This is a must. So anyway, we're going to put this on medium heat, and we're going to dump our 8 pounds of sugar in here. And there's no real science to this. The yeast will only make so much alcohol, and once it gets saturated with alcohol, the yeast will not produce any more alcohol. This happens to be a pretty high yeast, so we're going to start off with 8 pounds of sugar, and we're going to pour this in here and stir it up and heat it until it's dissolved. And that's going to be pretty close towards the end, because this is probably a 6-month process here. So towards the end, we may, when we check our hydrometer readings, we may add some more sugar if the yeast still acts like it's, because I like a sweet wine on homemade wines. Now, if I'm going to buy store-bought wines, I like dry wines generally, but homemade wine, I like it sweet. So we're going to start with this 8 pounds of this, roughly. I'm going by Always Save here. They say this is 8 pounds. Well, that thing was leaking a little bit there. I had some in the sack too a while ago to get that cleaned up. So we just want to keep this heated up. We're going to keep it stirred until this gets kind of dissolved, so you can still see the sugar in it. So we don't have to necessarily boil it. Looks like metal flake paint, don't it? Anyway, or metallic. But anyway, we're going to keep it stirred like that till it dissolves. Alright, once we get that done, then we'll put it in our must in there, or our wort as I refer to it as. Alright, show you more. Alright, it's getting there. You can see it's getting pretty clear, but there's still some residue on there, so we want to get her hot enough to get all of that sugar melted. And I'll tell you, the more you warm this up, and the more sugar you put in a small amount, it takes longer to get it dissolved. It's kind of like your percentage goes up on it. And I'm going to show you that here in a minute with our hydrometer. So, alright, show you more. Okay, this is the hydrometer I'm going to use. And I don't know if you can see on here, but it gets you your potential alcohol by volume. And what we're going to do is, when we put our sugar mixture in here and then fill this up to 5 gallons with water, then we're going to take a specific gravity on here. And depending on what the specific gravity is, if it's somewhere, let's say it's right about here, about 4%, then your potential for your alcohol, if you walk on around over here, will get, and once it cooks down from the 5% down to this 1,000, then, or 4% in our case for the example, then you would have, this wine would be 4% by volume. Now, people don't even use this stuff anymore. I use all antiquated stuff. When you watch my beer making and all that, I bottle everything. I do it all the old way. And they have actual little meters now that you can just take a drop and put on there, and it'll tell you your potential, and you can do it all that way electronically. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that this is the way I was taught to do it. This is the way I'm going to do it. So, all right, so we'll get our mixture put in here. We'll get it stirred around with our water, and then we'll take our specific gravity and we'll see what it is. Okay, so we got that cooked down so that the crystals, the sugar crystals, are not, they're dissolved. So we're going to dump this in here. Okay, and then we're going to add some water to it to cool it down. And to rinse out our pan and get all the sugar out of here. It's really not sugar at this point, it's more of a liquid. We still could use a little more water. Because we want to fill that up to the 5-gallon mark, which is right about here. Looking at the side of it, it's actually more about right here. So, see how that's 5 gallons right there. Okay. All right, so now we're going to stir this around and get it all kind of incorporated here. And by the way, you know, I did, just like I did when we put the pears in the jar to start with, or in this fermentation bin to start with, I sterilized this, I sterilized the pan, I sterilized everything, including the hydrometer, which I'm getting ready to put in there. Okay, let's see. Now, if we take our hydrometer and stick this in here, it'll take it a minute to bob around, and let's see what kind of number we get. I'm going to get down here so I can see it good. And it's looking like it's coming around. That was some kind of foreign object. I'm not sure what that was. Looks like it's at 11%. Okay, so 11% is our potential. Now, like I said, our yeast that we're going to put in this is only good for about a 5 to a 6% by volume wine. So what that's going to tell us is that we're going to have from 6 to 11 sugar potential. So that means this will be a semi-sweet. If we were going to go for a sweet wine with this particular yeast, we'd get it up to about 15%. Then the difference would be almost 10, well, it'd be about 9, and that would make it a pretty sweet wine. So this is going to be a semi-sweet pear wine. Ought to be pretty good. All right. Let's look at our yeast and see what we got going on with it. And you can see here that it is doubled in size. It's nice and thick. Look at that. So we're going to incorporate this into here. Now this is fairly cool. We did put a gallon of hot water in it, but we've added other cool water, and then all that pear juice was cold from sitting in the house. So, all right, so we're going to pour that in there. We're just going to give it a light stir, kind of like we do our beer. And then we're going to put our lid on it. Snap this down here. Okay, and then we're going to put our airlock in there, and we've filled the water up to the line on the airlock. So we're going to put that in there. And then we're going to put the floater in it, and we're going to put the lid on it, and then we're going to move it up and put it on the cabinet up here. Okay, so that is what we got. So we got 5 gallons going, and it won't take long for this to start bubbling in our airlock, much like our beer over here. has just about stopped bubbling, and I have tested this with the hydrometer, and we're almost at 0 or 1100 on the ball. So I'd say in the next day or so we're going to be bottling this beer, and this is the one that we made a few weeks ago, and you saw the video. I know I've already had complaints. The video was an hour long. Well, you know, we spent 7 hours brewing that day, so I mean, it was hard to condense everything down. So anyway, so I'm going to show you bottling this, but this will take off and start perking. Pear wine, so ought to be good. You know, probably about February to be ready, something like that. Takes a while. I mean, you can rush it and drink it, but you know, if you want a good flavor, just let it sit there and do its thing. You know, it's a nice area. This part of the house stays fairly cool, so it's a nice area to have the wines and beers in while they're working. So anyway, thanks for coming along, and we'll check in on this in a few months and see where we're at. Be sure and subscribe and share. Ring that bell, because that does something to the analytics. We can get these videos out there, more people can see them. I got good positive comments most of the time from y'all, but not enough people are seeing it. We're up to 205 subscriptions, still shooting for 1,000 by the end of the year, and well, we're running out of time. So we need your help, guys. All right, show you more. Thanks for watching. Bye.
I was walking down the street, I was minding my own affair.
Run, Tallulah, run!
Hi, baby.